We become what we consume. And I don't just mean that physically. I mean it intellectually, mentally, emotionally. And arguably, it's more important to watch what we consume mentally than physically because our minds dictate our bodies. And if we don't have a sound or peaceful mind, one that can listen to itself and its intuition, then there's no way we can possibly take care of our physical body. It all starts within the mind and then goes out and manifests into the physical body. And so that's why we can even manifest physical illnesses if we keep thinking a lot of these negative thoughts. And the inverse is also true, that we can start to heal ourselves with our own minds as well. I love this idea that what we consume, we become. But very few people talk about it in a sense of what we consume within our minds. So most of the time, we watch what we eat. We are aware that junk food is bad for us or fast food is not that great and all these sorts of things. We're pretty decent at watching that. And then if our weight goes too high, then we have a lot of motivation to fix that. But within our minds, it's a different story. If we're not watching what we consume, and not necessarily visually watching, I mean just being aware of what we mentally and consume, then that will be dictated for us. And whatever we're exposed to and whatever we consume quite frequently, we do embody whatever energy is coming from that specific information source. So a lot of times, if we're consuming the news, what do you think is going to happen to our minds if we're constantly filled with all these negative stories, deaths, whatever's happening in the world, something's not going right, the government's doing this. It's just all external. The news is always going to be external, and the purpose of it is to garner as many views as possible. And one of the best ways to get someone's attention is to instill fear or danger into somebody. And so it's very important to watch not just what you consume with your mind, but also what do you believe is the intention behind the source of what you're consuming. That arguably is even more important than whatever information it is itself, because on the surface, it could seem good, but if the intention is negative, then that's what you're going to absorb from that source. So, for example, the news I would say that it shrouds itself in saying that we need to stay educated about real-time events. And so that's what they're putting forward. But the true intention behind that, right? The front-facing facade is become educated about the real-time events, and whoever doesn't watch the news doesn't know what's going on, and so they're uneducated, so to speak. But the true intention behind all these news outlets is to just get your attention so they can make money off of ads. That's the true intention behind it. And so that when you kind of look at it from a perspective of what's underneath as opposed to what's on the surface, you get to actually figure out if we want to be consuming that or not. And it all starts with becoming aware. Without awareness, we can't change anything. We're just going to, if we're not aware of it, we're just going to keep continuing the pattern in the cycle until we become aware of it. And typically we don't become aware of anything until the pain is so great that we can't ignore it anymore. And a lot of times for us, that means depression. That means it means chronic anxiety. It means some sort of physical illness or anything like that. And it's not like when we get to that point that it's bad. It just means that it took that much to get our attention. And it's a good thing that it got that far. Otherwise, we would keep going. And so if you're at that point now where you're aware that you don't want to feel this way anymore, you don't want to feel all of this stress and anxiety and fear, that first step is one you already took. So congratulations on that. And the next step is to become very mindful and conscious of what decisions you're making. Again, one of the greatest abilities we have as humans is the ability and the power to choose. We can choose what we consume. Yes, we might not be able to control everything that's put out into the world for us to consume, but we can always choose what we consume. And that makes all the difference in everything. So there's not really a point in trying to control what other people do or what other companies put out into the world or to blame the news or anything like that. yeah, the news is there. It's always going to be there. We can't really fight it. But the thing that we can do is to choose not to watch it or to not consume it. Just like how we can't prevent all the junk food from being created in the world. That doesn't, junk food being there doesn't do anything to us unless we choose to consume it. And that's why choice is so powerful. The same thing is true for any sort of information out there or entertainment. It's going to be there, but we don't have to choose to consume it. And so it doesn't have to become part of us at all. So a fun exercise is just to, you can either sit down and audit everything that you do consume mentally, digitally, on your phone, on YouTube, on TV, whatever it is. Take an audit of everything that you're consuming and write down that list, and then right next to it, with every single thing that you do consume, write out how it makes you feel predominantly. What is the general feeling that you're getting from that when you're consuming it and then after you're done consuming it? Does it make you feel negative, fearful, anxious, and all these different things? Or does it make you feel at peace, filled with love, joy, and expansive? And if it's not what you want to feel, it might be time to let go of whatever that specific thing you're consuming is. And another fun way to do this is to actually do it in real time. So as you're consuming all of these things, this entertainment, this social media, YouTube, whatever it is, doesn't matter, become acutely aware of how it makes you feel. So right before you start and then right during the actual consumption of it and right after, be very, very conscious of how you feel. And then you can even filter in real time whether you want to keep consuming it or cut it off or whatever it is. And so if you do that, then slowly over time, every single time you let something go, you create more space for more love and more joy in your life. And then pay attention to what does pique your interest in a great way. So look for information sources or things to consume that do make you feel expansive and aligned with who you really are. So, and whatever promotes creativity, really, and that helps you feel more at home, more at peace. And if we slowly start doing that over time, our life magically changes. It doesn't have to be one big, massive, just detox of everything, right? And then we swing and just don't consume anything at all. We close ourselves off in our room and don't do anything. That can work for some people, but it's not quite sustainable. And we have to keep doing that every few months. And we just go back to the same pattern over and over again. So I don't necessarily like these diets or these trends because right after we're done with it, we go back to what we were doing before. So that's not really a permanent change. Whenever I'm looking to make a change, I always look to make a permanent one. So it's really a lifestyle change and not really some sort of temporary diet or trend that I'm trying to do. So do that for yourself. See how you feel. How does this content feel? If this content makes you feel more anxious and not like yourself and instills a lot of fear, then don't watch it, right? This content isn't for everybody, but if it makes you feel more like yourself, more expansive, it just promotes growth and makes you feel more infinite, then continue watching it. That's fantastic. And that's why I said, like, it's very important to just not lump these groups of, let's say, mediums into good or bad. Let's say YouTube bad. Not necessarily. There's plenty of great creators on there that can help you find out who you really are and to help you solve a lot of the problems that you're having in your life. And it's not like all news is bad, but generally most news is bad, right? And so it just depends where you're getting your news from. Are you getting it from sources that are uplifting and wholesome or the opposite? So try not to label the specific medium, but to figure out for yourself if you align with a specific information source within that medium or not. So that's all I have for you guys. I hope this helps.